Hey there everyone, this video is going to go through how to download and set up emulators to play KingsRoad on PC. So with Flash Player ending at the end of 2020, it means that we won't be able to play it in the normal conventional ways on PC. It will just become a mobile game. However, there are emulators which you can run on PC to then be able to run mobile apps while you're on PC. I'm definitely going to be doing this because for the biggest annoyance for me is that I use my phone for other things like communicating with people, and I can't do that easily while also playing KingsRoad, especially because KingsRoad closes as soon as you close down the app, and you then got to reload in and stuff. So it's very handy being able to do it on PC, and ultimately I'm just gonna play it as I normally would beforehand, just on an emulator rather than on a browser. So the emulators themselves, they run okay. It's not as good as it was on PC, but they're perfectly good enough. There are two emulators I'm going to recommend in this video. The first is BlueStacks and the second is Noxplayer. Now, one of the big concerns about emulators is they're quite heavy on your PC, more so than playing KingsRoad on a browser was. So if you don't have a top-end PC, I'd highly recommend going for an emulator which has it just takes less amount of effort from the PC. That is why I will recommend Noxplayer over BlueStacks. BlueStacks is the well-known one. It works totally fine, but from my testing and from finding out on the internet too, Noxplayer is less intensive on your PC and it works better if you don't have that top-end stuff. So Noxplayer is the one I would recommend over BlueStacks. There are other emulators out there you can go test out yourself. However, there are lots out there. I'm not going to test all of them. I think one of the main requirements of using an emulator and running KingsRoad is that it needs to be able to run Android version 6 or more, because KingsRoad is made for an apps, so it's made for Android version 6 or beyond. Android version 1 to 5, it's not going to run on those. So anyway, that's it with those. In terms of Rumble, they don't officially support emulators. However, they don't break terms of service. So as long as you don't use macros and the rest and stuff like that, like things which literally break the terms of service, then you can use emulators and it's totally fine. While Rumble doesn't officially support them, they want people to be able to enjoy playing the game in the way that they can, with as long as they're not cheating. So emulators, they do really want people to go and use emulators. In fact, Noxplayer was recommended to me from a member of Rumble, and they told me how you can change it so it works with Android version 7 rather than 5. Anyway, we'll get into that later on in the video. Let's start off by going through BlueStacks, and then I'll be going through Noxplayer. If you want to skip forwards to where I'm talking about Noxplayer, there's a link in the description for you to go do that. So for BlueStacks, obviously, if you want to find it, then search for BlueStacks. It's pretty much the first link there. You can go to the BlueStacks website and then download it from there. It'll take a little while to download and install, so we'll just skip over this quickly. As it's doing this, and on all the load screens, you'll see adverts for other games that are around. It's just kind of how these things go. You have a few pop-up adverts. In fact, BlueStacks is slightly worse than Noxplayer in terms of pop-up adverts. Noxplayer doesn't really have much of it at all. So eventually it's going to install, and then what you'll get to is signing in with Google. You sign in with Google as you would on an Android device. If you don't have a Google account, then you'll need to go set up an email address for that, set up a Google account, and then you'll be able to load in and have a profile here. KingsRoad itself is free, so it's not going to cost you money. Google account is free. You just need to sign on that, and then you can sign in to download the game. So once you've got the Google sign in done, then what you can do is open the Google Play Store. When you're in the Google Play Store, then you can just search for KingsRoad, and it will pop up as the app, as you normally would if you're doing it on a mobile. So from there, you just install, and it will install it as an application onto the emulator there. So you should then see it under My Games. It will take a little while to load in the first time. It might take it a little while on the next few load-ins as well. You may need to log in a few times before it actually starts loading in properly. Also, a few other things is the icons that you see on the game. They may be a little, they may not have loaded. Now for me, it was totally fine, but I've heard from other people when they first load in with BlueStacks, all the icons for all the items are just not loaded at all. They're just blank things. So give it a few logins if you have that issue, and then it should be better. It should have loaded all the icons, and then you'll be fine to do it. So from here, you can see in the top right, you can go into full screen. There's also a panel here on the side which you can make go away and come back out. That has various options on it. So from here, you can click the buttons and click on the screen, and it will do things as if you're playing it on a mobile. So the settings, I'm not going to go through all the settings, but one thing which I did change, which I don't know if it makes any difference, I went to the 1080p resolution rather than the whatever it is below that. Can't remember the name of it. It got me to reload and stuff, but yeah, there are various settings if you want to optimize your experience to have better performance, or otherwise lower the performance, or whatever it is, to try and take less energy from your laptop to run this. Then you can go and look at that. I'm not going to go through that because, for one reason, I'm not technical enough to really give you proper advice on all of that, but also there's plenty of stuff on the internet you can go look at to go check out how to find out, how to optimize it. So here's where it gets a little bit more complicated. So setting up the hotkeys. Now, initially, if you just click on the various buttons, and you can use them that way, but realistically, it's so awkward to do that. You want hotkeys like you're using on PC. So there's a hotkeys option for that. It's over on the right. If you go to the game controls and then you open Advanced Editor, From there, you can set up these hotkeys, and you can see the ones that I've put there already. You can have these different control schemes, so you can have different ones. This is just the general setup which I've put here. So you click on a tap spot, and then you type the key which you want to use, and then you can move it to wherever you want on the screen. So you can see I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at the bottom. I've got a T for the tab switch. I've got the other hotkeys for consumables, Enter for the speech, and then I've got a few other ones scattered around, which we'll talk about as I use them later on. So L, if I click L, I'll then go to that location on the screen. It's as if I'm tapping that place on the screen. So I've actually added in extra hotkeys which were not there on the browser version, because that is the slight advantage of playing on an emulator, is that we can add hotkeys that weren't there that would have been useful. Like, you'll see my 6 hotkey in the bottom right, just above those 2 consumables. That is for Conjuring Dragons. We never got a hotkey for Conjuring Dragons, but it'll be useful having that. So let's go test this out in a tournament now, just to see how these hotkeys play. It's very important to know you cannot input hotkeys if you are clicking on the screen. So if you're holding click to move, then you can't actually you can't use skills. It will take a lot of getting used to, and it'll be very annoying. However, it is possible to get used to. I think it shouldn't be too much of an issue. You could see also, just a few moments ago, I used the hotkey to open the Conjuring, and then it's scrolling on the mouse will scroll up and down that list. So there are a few things like that which do make it slightly easier to use. And you can see I'm using all the hotkeys. I messed up with the teleport just there because I clicked too early when it hadn't actually selected the skill. So getting the timing right is going to be important looking forwards. So lastly, what we're going to show is some farming. And as you can see, normally to equip items using mobile version, it's very awkward because you've got to click the item and then click equip. There's loads of extra buttons you need to click when you're using the mobile version. However, having these hotkeys down at the bottom, you can see I'm actually using the T. I'm not sure if I'm using T or E, but either one of them work, so I can just very quickly equip items. So this is literally my first time trying to farm using the emulator, so it's not going to be good. I'm just going to tell you that now. But teleporting in, I can kind of get the teleports there. Obviously, I don't know the hotkeys yet for the teleporting, so I'm not going to really be able to use those. But I can try and run around into the areas and use the big area of effect skills. It's very important. I will show this at the end of the run, but you want to change the options. That's the KingsRoad in-game options in the top right, so you don't have the auto counterattack. That is extremely irritating when you're trying to play, that it will just randomly attack anything that attacks you. It actually happens a little bit anyway, but that's kind of a bug which I've never been able to get Rumble to fix. But anyway, otherwise, it will actually automatically basic attack anything that's nearby you. Once you start attacking, it will automatically be attacking things, which is very important to know in PvP. I've had people say like, oh, it's impossible to do attacking and stuff because when you use skills, you have to not be clicking on something, and so you have to stop attacking in order to use a skill, and that's not the case. What you do is you simply you start attacking the enemy, and then you will use skills and just literally click the skills, and it will be targeting the enemy, using the skills on them, and doing basic attacks in between. That's generally what is going to be combat now. That's generally how you fight on mobile. Obviously, autoplay works the same, but trying to play manually, that's what you want to be doing. So going into the other map now, I do animals called Circle as well. So yeah, let's try and get the teleport done. No, I don't go for the teleport. I end up messing up and just doing basic attacks on those enemies. Try and run through here. We don't have right click to run past the enemies, so I've just got to click around them so I don't actually click on the enemies, so I run past them. I messed up using Fire Blast there as well, because I had to stop clicking moving to then click Fireball to then click it, which I did correctly up at the top there, but I messed up on the bridge. And now I'm going to try and Fire Blast for the back. I failed to click the button because I clicked it at the same time as clicking movement. It's definitely going to take a lot of experience retraining ourselves to time our clicks, which is, for me, kind of interesting because it's very similar to playing the flute. If you don't know, I play the flute, and one of the things that you've got to do with many different instruments is time your finger movements with when you're breathing, when you're blowing through the instrument or blowing over the mouthpiece of the flute, because otherwise what you get is you just get loads of disjointed random notes that are like cut half between two different notes, or just are not a very nice sound. So it's definitely possible to learn, like it is learning any instrument like that. However, it will take a lot of practice getting used to, and we're not going to fight as well as we used to. But you know, when it comes to PvP, we're all in the same boat, so at least it's not too unbalanced with that. We're just going to struggle a bit more to do good damage to each other, because trying to chain together skills and stuff is going to be trickier. So anyway, as you can see, you know, I'm not the best at farming with this. It's going to take time, but it's definitely kind of possible to use. This is generally how this is going to go. So I hope that's enough showing BlueStacks and setting up the hotkeys, getting it running, and then, you know, using it in practice, talking a little bit about some of the specifics. To download Nox, you just go and search for Nox for Windows 10. I actually searched download Nox for Windows 10, but yeah, you can get to www.bignox.com, and then from here you can download it for PC, Mac, you know, whatever you have. Go ahead and download it. So it'll take a little bit of time to download, and I'll just skip over that now. But obviously you download, install it, and then after it's installed, you can then open it up and get it up and running. As it opens up, you'll see various images of other games and stuff. There's not too much in the way of pop-ups, adverts and stuff like that. It obviously advertises other games, but it's not going to throw stuff in your face too badly. So when you load in, it will ask you to log in with Google Play. Now I'm obviously blacking this out. If you don't have a Google Play account, then, a Google account, then you'll need to go make one. They're completely free to make, and KingsRoad itself is free to download, so it's not going to be an issue, you know, costing any money or anything. You just need to have an account so you can sign in, and then from there download the game. So once you're signed in, you'll be treated with the main home screen. Now this works a lot like a mobile, and if you look in the bottom right, there will be the home button, the back button, and then another button. Now this is very much like a mobile, like I say, where you've got the home, you've got the back, and then the other one is to open all the sort of currently open applications, so you can, you know, be running multiple games and switching between them that way. That's how it is set up to work a lot like a mobile. But the important thing to note here is that this is running on Android version 5. Now, I actually managed to make it work on Android version 5, but assuming that you need Android version 6 or greater, This is how you can set up in Nox to make it run Android version 7. So if you go to the right and you go to the mole drive thing, if you open this up, it will open another application. This is Nox Multi-Instance Manager, and it will show you any instances of Noxplayer that are running, because you can run multiple instances. It's the same with BlueStacks. You can run multiple instances of BlueStacks at any one time. However, here we actually need to do it in order to get Android version 7. So when you're on this screen, you can see the Noxplayer you have open, and you need to click on Add Emulator. When you do, you pick the option Android 7. Now this is then the later version, the one that is running Android version 7. So that will then download, and then it will open up as a new application, a new instance of Noxplayer being run. And you'll see in the top left that it is Android 7 once it's loaded in. So as you can see here, I've got the two windows, this Android version 5 and Android version 7. So from this Android version 7, you can then go into the Google Play app. To find this, click on the Tools button, and then for some reason it's there on the second page. I'd recommend just dragging it out onto the home screen. But yeah, from here you can go in and you can open up, you have to sign in again. That's because we're on the Android version 7 now rather than Android version 5. But then from there you can search for KingsRoad and then download it. Once it's downloaded, you can open it up, and it should open up just like it would on any mobile device. So you can sign in using your Rumble ID, or with Facebook, either one's going to work. Once it's loaded in, you may have issues with certain icons not appearing. I mentioned this with the BlueStacks as well. I didn't have any issues, but if you do have any issues with some icons not displaying properly, then you may just need to load in a few times for it to load the icons properly. And some maps as well may display weirdly the first time you go in, just because it sort of locally downloads some of that stuff, so you won't see it properly the first time. But as you can see, nothing's going wrong on mine. I can see everything properly, so I just go into all the different menus and check out what's going on and how things are going. So one thing you can do when you get this emulator up and running is you can optimize the settings. I'm not really going to go through the specifics of how to optimize most effectively. It depends what you want to do, whether you want to go for highest performance or for sort of lower performance where it taxes your PC less. If you want to be doing this while running other things, or you have a lower end PC, like, you can optimize however you like for whatever experience you want. If you want to know how best to optimize, then there's lots of useful stuff online which you can search for. I'm not going to go through it here. I changed the resolution, the screen resolution, which, to be honest, I'm not really sure if it makes any difference. I might just change that back. But there's various stuff in the settings which you can do in order to optimize for whatever you want. Now we get to the important part of the setup. So we want hotkeys running, and to use the skills at the bottom. So you open up the keyboard mapping menu, and then from here you can click on the single click, and I'm just setting up my my own sort of personal setup. So I'm going to make it in this local one. Just trying to edit the name. Just going to call it KingsRoad Wizard. Okay, so we click on single click. Now what this means is whatever key you choose, so I've chosen 1 here, then when I click 1, it will click wherever I put this thing. So you can put it at the bottom of the hotkeys, and you can see I've done it with number 2 here as well for the second skill. And customize this however you like. Make sure you put these in sensible places. I found that you can actually go quite far off the buttons. You don't need to go directly on, so that way you can still see what's on that. What was originally those buttons. So the consumables, you can see what they are. You can see what the skills are and stuff by putting them at the bottom. So now I have set up all the hotkeys, how I would choose to map them. So I've got 2 different ones here. I've got one for Wizard, I've got one for General. The Wizard one has these these 3 bits in the corners, the F2, F3, F4. I've got these for teleport. So when I teleport, I can teleport to the corners by pressing these particular hotkeys. It will take me a while to learn this, but I think it will probably be pretty useful. If you're a Wizard too, then you may want to do this. Or otherwise, if you just want to have certain buttons you can press to move towards particular corners, rather than having to move your mouse to click on that side to move over there, it may be quite useful for, like, say you're engaged in, and there's loads of enemies, loads of stuff on the screen, and you just want to move in a certain direction, but you need to then aim your mouse over that side while not clicking anything else. It may be useful having a particular button that clicks past those enemies or whatever it is to move in a certain direction. So what I've done is I put those in the corners. I've then done the 1 to 5 at the bottom. I've done the T for the switching to other tab. I've got the hotkeys for the consumables. I've got hotkey 6 for dragons, which is actually really useful because we never got a hotkey for conjuring dragons. It's about time that we have one. So number 6 seems most appropriate. I've got enter to open up the chat window, which makes perfect sense, of course. And when you click on the chat actual line, then you get to just type, and you can type whatever you like, hit enter, and it will send it. Then also I've got other ones for the 2 menus on the sides. G, I've got up there in the top left. This is to return to town or to exit map, that kind of stuff, as well as it's G because if you open up the left-hand menu, that is where the guild menu is, so you can then open that. Similar with the F, I've got it carefully positioned so it will invite friends, which, F for friends, as well as if you open up the left panel, then F will open up the friends menu. Then we've got X for autoplay, also for achievements. X was the hotkey for achievements normally, so if you open up the right panel and then click X, then it will go to that. And similarly L there, that's for inventory, so if you click I then L, it will open up the inventory. Space in the top right is incredibly important. That is really useful for closing menus. There's so many menus you have to close all the time, and I find it really, really irritating on mobile, trying to close all these menus the whole time, having to like move up to the top right to then click it, to then move back to wherever you want to click. Space is a really easy button to click on the keyboard, so I think that's probably the best option for closing that stuff. So now you can see me using teleport a little bit, just using those hotkeys in the corners to try and get the best distance, and then G to return to town without having to click up there. So let's do some messing around in tournament, seeing how these hotkeys are to play with. So one important thing to note is that you will automatically do basic attacks on anything which you attack. Once you start attacking it, you'll continue just doing basic attacks on it. Once it's dead, you'll then switch to doing basic attacks on the next nearest enemy. That's just how it works on mobile. If you're not used to that because you only play on PC, it's quite weird to get used to. But yeah, basically you do a lot of basic attacks compared to normal. And you just need to sort of start attacking something and then just use the skills. Any targeted skill, like for example Arcane Beam on Wizard, you just need to click the button, the skill button, once you're attacking the enemy. Normally on PC you'd hold click on the enemy and then click the skills. Here you just need to start attacking on an enemy and then just click the skills and it will use them. You just need to not click them too quickly so they have time to use. So as you can see, I can clear the tournament. I mean, the tournament's easy enough, but using the skills and stuff is definitely possible to use, and the hotkeys feel about right. You just have to be very careful not to be double clicking. So you need to remove your finger from clicking movement or whatever it is, and then click a skill. Otherwise, it will be taking your clicking movement, and that takes a lot of getting used to. So let's go into PvP to try it out in there. Like I said, very important to note that you don't hold click for the movement. You've got to let go of that to then use skills. Also, in terms of attacking, where it will continue attacking on an enemy, if they change state, which happens in PvP, if someone uses, like, say, Archmage as a wizard, or if they use, I'm trying to remember, I know it's Lord of Winter, it's Angelic Form, I think it is, on Knight. As soon as they use that, they change state and you stop attacking them. So you need to sort of restart attacking them. So I go up here and I start facing this Dragonlord's guy. This is actually going to turn out into a really, really intense fight. I don't know it at this point. I sort of just line up my skills and then try and kill him off. And I realise, oh no, he's not dead at all. He's really tanky, this guy. So yeah, we're going to have to play this quite carefully. I'll start using my skills. You can see you get the normal problems with skills not working because you get stunned and stuff like that. You just got to be very careful, much more aware of stuff, and don't click movement so randomly, which I do a lot. I like to move around and stay mobile, but you have to try and avoid doing that so that you can use the skills properly. So I try and line up my skills again. Again, don't really manage to kill him off. He stunned me just as I used Archmage, and it actually stopped the skill from working properly. So I'm messing up here and have to use a potion, which I feel bad about because I normally don't do that, but what I just needed to do was use a different skill. That wasn't actually an emulator problem, that was just what happens if you get stunned when you're trying to use a skill. Sometimes it will then lock up so you can't use that skill, you need to use something else first before another one. But anyway, as you can see, pretty intense fight going on. Neither one of us have managed to get a kill yet. He nearly got me, but that was mainly because my skills locked up. And I've kind of pushed him down twice, but never got close. So we'll see if one of us can actually get a kill before the end. And yeah, sure enough, I managed to get up enough damage, and I had polymorph lined up, so I was able to take him out. Anyway, so PvP and stuff, still a lot of fun on an emulator. As you can see, it works perfectly fine. It just feels a little different in terms of how you use the skills, and it will definitely take a lot of getting used to. I hope this video has shown you enough of how to, download, set it up, but also a little bit of it in practice, and hopefully you'll feel comfortable setting it up whichever way you want. If you want to optimize further, like I said, you can look online to see how to optimize the emulator better, but this is just generally how you can set it up and play with it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you continue playing KingsRoad and enjoying it. Emulators are still kind of fine. Yeah, so I'll see you soon in another video.